Hi there. Hey, everyone.
Hi, Indra.
Let me just. There, so please don't forget to turn on your cameras. Thanks. All right. So what we're going to be working what we're going to be doing this week, what we'll be working on today, is the reading section. So let me show. Okay, let me show this. All right, guys. So the reading, as you might know, is the first section that you will find in the test when you're taking it. It's over 30, the same as all of the other sections, 30 points. And well, I think that, it's a bit different than the writing and the speaking in terms of this is not a production section. So it's a lot less flexible. It's more like black and white. So you either know the answers or you don't, So yeah, it's a bit different. I would say that the biggest problem for most people would be time. I think that most people constantly run out of time. But, it depends. Some people also need some vocabulary to kind of, be more familiar and understand better the readings. So it depends. And please, guys, I'm going to say this one more time. Don't forget your cameras. They need to be on. So please turn them on. Okay, guys, so about the structure of the reading section, in this part, what you will have to do is read some passages. These will be academic passages, academic articles on topics like sciences. It could be the soft ones like humanities, business, finance, or it could be history, it could be literature. Sometimes you get biography, sometimes you get a bit of biology, or maybe even physics or technology. So that kind of readings. And you will be asked some questions about each one of them. So in fact, you will have 10 questions per passage. So you read a passage and then you get 10 questions about it. Okay. Now, okay, so in this reading section, you will have either 3 or 4 passages. Now, you may be wondering why I'm not giving you like an exact number, 3 or 4. Now, the thing is, the reading and the listening are somewhat connected to each other. So, for example, if you get 4 passages, if you get the longer reading section, then you will have the shorter listening section. And if you get a shorter list reading, like 3 passages, then your listening will be longer. So what I'm trying to say here is don't worry, it will be fair no matter what. You get longer reading, shorter listening. Longer listening, shorter reading. And again, if you get 4 passages, then one of them will be unscored, which means that they're not even going to look at one of the passages that you answer, but you obviously don't know which one it's going to be. So you just need to answer everything in case you get 4. And remember that each passage will have 10 questions about it. Okay, so which makes a total of 30 to 40 questions. And as for time goes, you will be given 54 minutes in case you get the shorter one, 3 passages, or 76 in case you get the longer one, 4 passages. Okay, and that means that you should be finishing a passage or a set of questions in 18 minutes at least. Okay, so any questions about this? 3 to 4 passages, 10 questions each? Okay, guys. So some things you guys should know before we look at the types of questions and everything. First thing, the readings will be there no matter what. So you will read and you will have the chance to answer the questions at the same time. That means that you don't have to take notes. You don't have to memorize anything. It won't go anywhere after you read. So you can read and answer at the same time, or you can read first and then answer. I think that's why you have many different strategies or approaches that you can take to answer the reading section. There are two things you can do basically. You can either decide to read the entire thing, so you read the whole listening, the whole reading part, and then you start answering the questions, or you can look at the questions, read the question, and just read the portion that you need for that question. And you're going to go hand in hand. So I cannot tell you which one is best. Some people will say that this one is best, the other one, but it doesn't really work that way. It depends on what works better for you. Some people that struggle with time, maybe it's better for them to just read the questions and look quickly for the answers in the text. Or some people that are very good with time, that feel like they understand everything, that they don't run out of time, well, they can read the entire thing first and then answer the questions. So it depends on you. I would say that you need to practice a lot. You need to try both ways and see which one works better for you. And you're going to find out, you're going to figure it out. Another thing I gotta say, please never ever skip questions. Don't leave questions in blank, because you're just gonna lose your chances, There's no penalty for a wrong answer. So having a wrong one and not answering one is the same. So it's better if you do answer, even if you have to guess, even if you don't know what the answer is, you're not so sure, make sure that you choose one, that you select one, you take a guess, and then you move on, okay? Because still you will have like 25% of chances of getting it right. So who knows, you may even get it right. Another thing, to be honest, in the reading, you can do a lot. You can start in question 1, then move to question 5, then move on to the next passage, leave some blank. So there are many things you can do. You can jump around, you can go back, but there's no really need of doing it. So I wouldn't really recommend you do that. It's just gonna, make you confused. You're gonna lose the written. You're gonna probably make more mistakes. You're gonna skip some questions accidentally. So make sure that you go in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, first, second, third passage. It's the better way, okay? Also, make sure that you don't get stuck. Remember that you're running against time. So if you're not able to answer a question in like a minute and a half, then move on, okay? Take a guess and move to the next one. What you can do is you can take a piece of paper with you and take notes on the ones that you're guessing. So let's say that you guessed question 7 of the first passage. So if you weren't so sure, if you just guessed, then you can write that down so that at the end of the whole reading section, in case you have extra time, you can review that and see if you can figure out what the answer is. But in general, don't get stuck, don't waste time in one question. It's never worth it. Usually it goes from easier to harder. So the final ones are the hardest ones. So hurry up at the beginning, leave some time till the end. Try to finish a passage in less than 18 minutes. So 16 minutes would be an ideal number so that you can review at the end. And please make sure that you only review your answers at the end of the whole reading section. So you don't have to review them like at the end of the first passage or every 5 questions. No, that's just gonna make you waste time, okay? Only at the end of the whole reading section. Okay, guys, so those are some tips I can give you. I know I talked too much, but I don't know if you guys have any questions about this so far, about how it works, what you should do. Okay. So what we're going to be doing now, the best thing we can do in the reading is take a look at the types of questions. We're going to try and look at this with some examples. I could also tell you a bit about how the reading is going to be structured, or the types of structures and everything else. But let's leave that for next class, because this is the most important. Okay, so there are 10 different types of questions that you can have in the reading. Okay, so these are the 10. You have vocabulary, detail, accept, and so on. And this table here shows the frequency of each one of them, which pretty much means how many of them you can find or how often you will see one of these. So as you can see, these two first ones, vocabulary and detail, are the most common ones, the most frequent ones, which makes them the most important ones, okay? Because imagine that you have 5 vocabulary questions and 3 detailed questions out of 10. So that's gonna basically make up like a majority of your score, you know? So it's important that we look at them in depth. And then the summary question, the one that you get at last, that's also a very important one, not because you have a lot of them, but because it's worth a bit more. Okay, so I think that the summary question is worth like 2 of these questions, so it is important. Okay, guys. So let's start looking at them. I think we'll cover 2 or 3 today, and we'll leave the rest for next class. So any questions so far before we look at the types of questions? All right, guys. Now, in order to have a look at them, we're going to be using this as reference, as an example. And this is a reading set offered by the official ETS website, as you can see. So it's something that should be quite similar to what you will find, you know, in the actual test. It's something that should be very close to what you will see. So we're going to be using this. Okay, let's look at the first type. These are the vocabulary questions, and they are, I would say, my personal favorite. Why? Because first thing, they're very frequent, so you will have a lot of them. And most importantly, because they don't take up that much of your time, okay? They're quick. If you know the words or if you just look at the context, they shouldn't take you that much time as the other questions. So that's why I like them, because you don't even have to read the entire thing to answer. So, okay, so in order to answer one of these questions, you're going to have to look at 2 things. So they will ask you for the synonym of a word, but it doesn't just have too much with meaning. It also needs too much with context. Okay, so we're going to be doing both meaning and context. Let's see what we mean. So here is the question. Can anyone please read the question that we have here in the options?
The word ingenuity in paragraph 2 is closest in meaning to option A, ambition, B, sincerity, C, faith, and D, cleverness.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to ask you guys, do you know this word ingenuity? Do you know what a synonym could be, or which one is closest to that word among these options? Any guesses? D, cleverness, okay.
Cleverness.
Okay. Anybody would like to go for a different one? Okay. Okay, guys. So how sure are you that cleverness is ingenuity?
80%.
Okay, nice. So I think that's enough. At the beginning, you will do that. You read the question, you read the options. If you're like 85 or 90% sure, and you look at the other ones and they don't make that much sense, then the only thing you need to do is just choose one and move on. Okay, don't waste time. If you know what the word is, you're just gonna waste time by reading everything again. But if you're not so sure, like 50% sure, you think it could be, but you're not like that sure, then the second thing you need to do is look at context, and that's what we'll do. So, okay, so we'll read this. Now, another thing I wanted to say, the first tip I'll give you is, even if you're not gonna read the entire paragraph, make sure that you read the instructions and the title of the part of the passage. Okay, so for example, we have the rise of Teotihuacan. So what do you guys think this will be about? What can you picture when you hear this? What will it be about?
How the culture was developing, was developed.
Okay, great, Andrea. Yes, nice guess. How this culture city was developed, how it brought the rise, how it arose. So yes, the development. Okay, perfect. So it's history probably. Let's see. Now, another thing that has worked for me almost 100% of the times is if I don't want to read the entire paragraph and I want to have an idea of what the paragraph is about, what I do, or even in the passage, is I read the first line or the first and second line, because believe it or not, usually most of the paragraphs have a similar structure. So at the beginning, you have like a short introduction to the paragraph. So it's like something that will let you know what, in general words, this will be about. And everything else is like related to that first thing that you saw. Okay, so it works that way. You have like a short intro for each one. So if you want to know what it is about, then you can just do that. But in this case, let's try to read the entire thing, okay? Just to make sure that we got the right one. So will anybody please read the paragraph?
Okay, Miss.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. How did this tremendous development take place, and why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Among the main factors are Teotihuacan's geography, location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico, the obsidian resources in the Teotihuacan Valley itself, and the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. Several of the other factors is much more difficult to pinpoint. For instance, Teotihuacan religious significance as a, I don't know how you pronounce this word, train. The historical situation in and around the Valley of Mexico toward the end of the first millennium, B.C., the ingenuity of forestsideness of Teotihuacan elite, and finally, the impact of natural disasters such as the volcanic eruptions of the late first millennium B.C. point.
Okay, thank you so much, Josue. Okay, so as you can see, well, what would you say this paragraph was about? What would you say? I mean, yeah, this paragraph was about. What's the main idea? What is it about? Anybody?
They talk about the land they were in, like the home, the location.
Okay, the land or location, different things, we have a lot of elements, but in general, what's this?
About how grows the culture in the valley of Teotihuacan.
Okay, exactly. So yes, look at this sentence, right? So how did this tremendous development take place? So how it happened and why it happened in Teotihuacan. So basically, this is about the factors that influence the development of that city. And we have a lot of them. We have their geographic location, we have the obsidian resources, we have the potential for extensive irrigation, I don't know, like a lot of different things, natural disasters. So those are the factors that influence the development of Teotihuacan, including the ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's elite. That's actually one of the factors that led the city to be such a powerful one, So now that you know that, you need to think of, okay, so relating that word to the context, ingenuity, what does that have to do with the paragraph? Okay, so ingenuity is one of the factors that influence the development of the city. So you need to ask yourself, do I think that ambition, sincerity, faith, cleverness, which ones could be a good, a strong factor to lead the development of the city? Which ones make more sense? Which ones are more related to the other factors that we have, like geographic location, oxygen resources? So one that matches in that list, So I would like you guys to tell me, is there any options that you would consider eliminating from these four that you're like, I don't think those ones make sense?
What was the question? Sorry.
Is there any options that you would eliminate out of these four?
Sincerity, faith.
Okay, perfect. So yes, me too. Great. I would say sincerity and faith, even though I'm not saying that they're not important, but they're not, in the same level as the other ones. Exactly. So I agree with you. Now, there's one more thing. You know that ingenuity and foresightness here, they go together, right? Ingenuity and foresightness of the Teotihuacan concept. So they must be related somehow. So anybody knows what foresightness is?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's
Sometimes
like foreign, something foreign.
foreign. Okay, I like that you're relating it to another word. I like that idea. Foreign. Okay. And let's try and do that, okay? Sometimes there are some words that you can break down. For example, this one here, you know that this ending ness, it doesn't mean anything, it just means that it's a noun. It's like cleverness comes from clever, laziness from lazy. So foresightness, that ness is out of the picture. Now, what about sight? Do you know what that means?
To see.
Exactly, to see. Perfect. It makes sense. And what about for? Okay, you were saying foreign, but is there any other words that you can associate it to? Like, you can for?
Forget. I don't know.
Forbid?
Or
Okay, but forbid is just like this, right? So it doesn't have the E. Okay. What about this one here? Like forecast, like the weather forecast. Have you ever heard that? Weather forecast? So it's like the weather prediction, right?
Prediction.
I'm sorry?
Yes, the same. Prediction, prognosis.
Okay, yes, perfect. So forecast, we also have like foreshadowing. I don't know if you heard foreshadowing, which means like knowing something that's going to happen later beforehand in a book, usually. So I think it has to do with the future. It has to do with some, like being able to see something before it happens. So foresightness actually means that the ability to look at the future to see what's going to happen or to predict what's going to happen and obviously do something about it, so you're making those predictions and you're taking care of things so that you can be careful with whatever it is that's coming. So now that you know that, you need to, again, try to think of a word that would be close to that one because it's got to be related. Ingenuity, foresightness. So is it going to be ambition or cleverness?
cleverness.
Great, cleverness. So you guys were right completely. It is cleverness. That's the right option. Because it has to do with ingenuity is like creativity, it's like being smart. Being wise means being clever. And the same as foresight. So perfect. One thing that you guys can never do is try to associate it to a word that you think you know in Spanish. So for example, ingenuity means in Spanish it will be ingenio, right? It's not ingenuidad. So some people may be like ingenuity, idad, ingenuidad. And then that's gonna just drive them to choose this one, sincerity, and it's not the right one, right? So if you're not so sure, 100% sure, then also look at context It has to match both in meaning, the first thing you do, and in context. So yes, meaning and context. So is that okay, you guys, for this one? Any questions or comments?
No.
No sé
Okay.
si cometí un error, pero digamos yo relacioné la palabra ingenuidad con ser como astuto.
Really?
Ya,
Is that what it is though?
como yo lo relacioné con eso y cleverness también lo relacioné como ser astuto y todo. Entonces como, that's why I chose that. Pero ¿qué
No.
significa en realidad?
Because I think, okay, I think that, oh no, what am I doing?
It's
In
the
realidad,
opposite, right?
yeah, it's the opposite. But okay, who would have thought? You got it
Yeah.
right. Okay, well done. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes you happen that. So look at this. Ingenuo, sincerity, right?
Right. Now it makes sense.
Well done, though. You're lucky.
Mhm.
Okay, guys. So don't do that. If you're not so sure, try not to do that. Because you know, they most of the people that take these tests, they're usually Spanish speakers. So sometimes, or when you know, you have these like false, what are they called? False friends, I think. So they're worth. Yes, exactly. So it's something that they might be even doing on purpose. Okay, so don't fall into that. Make sure that you look at context. But if you're 100% sure, as I was saying, if you know ingenuity, okay, cleverness, then just choose one. Don't waste time.
So the correct answer is cleverness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So any questions then about this one? Okay. Now the next one we have is these detailed questions or factual questions. And these are, the good thing about this is that you don't really have to think that much. This is quite direct, and that's something I like. So they're going to be asking for a specific piece of information, something that's directly stated in the passage. So it's going to be very explicitly mentioned. You don't have to do so much reasoning or anything. It's a high frequency question, so you're going to be looking at them a lot. And everything, I think, comes down to finding keywords, narrowing down your information, and then paraphrasing. So you'll see what I mean. So we have this question here. We're going to be answering the same set. So I don't know, who can read the question and the options?
Okay. According to paragraph 4, what has recent research on obsidian tools found at all MEX sites show?
I'm sorry, Andrea, I think I'm in the wrong one. There's another one that we were in.
Okay.
Please, this one. Sorry, question
Okay.
5.
Okay. Which of the following allow Teotihuacans to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? The options too?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Option A, a well-exploited and readily available commodity, the presence of a highly stable elite class, knowledge derived directly from the Olmecs about the art of toolmaking, scarce natural resources in nearby areas such as those located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrea. So what we'll do now is I'll give you guys some time, 1 minute or two, to read this here. So read the paragraph. You don't always have to read the entire thing, actually, but we're going to talk about that later. For now, just try to read the paragraph and try to think of what the answer could be, okay? Let me know when you got it. Okay, guys, what do you think?
Excuse me, Miss, is about the answer?
Yeah, which one would you go for?
I think it's letter B.
Letter B, okay.
I think because in the first sentences, the lecture told something about the city's elite.
I think it's A or D.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think it can be D.
D as well. All right. So let's see. Okay, guys. So the first thing you need to do when you got one of these, as you can see, this is quite direct. You know, what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? The first thing you need to do is obviously look for that information. You need to look for what allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors. Now, how do you do that? Well, first thing you need to identify what the keywords are. So sometimes you will have some words that are repeated both in the text and in the question. You know, so in this case, we have something quite simple because it's a quote, a competitive edge over its neighbors being quoted. So it's actually here, you know, it's part of the paragraph. And this is what somebody was saying, right? It's in the first sentence. Perfect. But there are more. Sometimes you won't have something that easy. Sometimes you got some synonyms. So for example, about this, you know, we have that the first line, Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. Now, do you think that giving the city a competitive edge and allowing the city to have a competitive edge are close enough? Like, is that the same? Is it close enough to consider it? Yeah, right. It's kind of the same. It's just in different words. Wouldn't you say?
What did
Okay.
you?
I was saying, do you think that giving the city a competitive edge, as we have in the text, and allowing the city to have a competitive edge would be the same?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. So yeah, if it's not exactly the same, it's close enough.
Mhm.
Now, the next thing I will say here, when you have these detailed questions, the mistake that most people make is that they think or they try to summarize everything. So they read the entire paragraph and then try to summarize it, and they come up with something that includes a bit of everything. But that's not what you have to do here. That's why it's a detailed question. It's a very specific detail. It's not about the whole thing. That will be a summary question. So I guarantee that usually most of the time your answer will be in just 1 or 2 sentences at most. Okay, it's gonna be something quite direct. And in this case, once we know that this is the same, then we have found our answer, haven't we? So what gave the city a competitive edge? Teotihuacan's natural and the city elite's ability, right, to recognize their potential. So that's it. Don't look farther. You don't even have to read farther than that. Actually, when you're in your test, and if you're deciding to take this strategy, then just look for the keywords and read the previous and the next sentence. The answer is going to be somewhere there. Okay, it's not going to be in the entire paragraph. Don't have to read anything. Okay, now once you have found where your answer is, the only thing that you have left to do is paraphrase that. Okay, so you need to find an option that is telling you the same in different words. The Teotihuacan's natural resources and the city and its ability to recognize the potential. The two of the elements. It doesn't have to include anything else, or it doesn't have to leave anything behind. So it needs to have exactly the same. Now, for example, option D and C, they are talking about the Olmecs, the art of tool making. This one here has something about natural resources, but this has more information. You know, it's talking about the Mexican highlands, Guatemalan, I don't know. So it couldn't be D, okay? Now, you wanna know what the answer is? It was actually A, that was the answer. So let's try to figure out why. A well-exploited and readily available commodity. Now, can anybody tell me why B couldn't be the answer, the presence of a highly stable elite class? Why couldn't that one be?
I think it's because the word scarce, that mean the lack of something, and they were rich in obsidian.
Okay, all right, I like that, but that's about B, right? So yes, scarce natural resources. Okay, so yes, they were rich in those resources, that's true. So D is not the one, but I'm saying, why wouldn't it be B? Why not B? What's wrong with B? Why not this one?
Because in the text they say that natural resources give the competitive edge, and this is additional of the ability of the culture. It's like something additional.
Great, perfect. So in the text, we have two elements. This along with basically means and, right? So what gave the city? We have two things. We cannot leave one behind. So it's their natural resources and the city elite's ability to recognize their potential. So it's two things. And option B is only talking about one of them, the highly elite class, highly stable elite class. So it's not B. And then it's gotta be A, you know, but if you wanna go farther, then we can also think of how natural resources and city elite's ability is the same as well-exploited and readily available commodity. So just think about this. What do you guys think this means? Readily available commodity, what's that?
What you have when you have natural resources, you have a product of that. It's a commodity.
Perfect, yes, yeah, right. So readily available is what you have from the moment you're established. So from the moment the city was there, they had these resources readily available to use. So they were there. And commodity is just resources. It's not comodidad again. It's the goods that you have, you know, the owns that you possess, the wealth that you have, or the resources that you have. And the city elite's ability to recognize their potential means that they also exploited them, you know, so it was not only did they have the natural resources, but they also exploited them. They recognized that they did, and they exploited them, okay? So that's why A is the answer. So is this okay, you guys? Any questions or comments? Okay. So remember, it's usually gonna be a factual, a portion of the text. It's not gonna be everywhere in the paragraph. You need to find synonyms because it's never gonna be as easy as finding something, okay, option A, the Teotihuacan's natural resources and city elite's ability, blah, blah, blah. So you will find some synonyms, you will have to paraphrase it. And yeah, I think that the main thing is that you focus on just one thing. I think that's the key here. Okay, guys. So let's do one more. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's look now. Let's look at the except type of question, which is almost the same as the detailed question, but the opposite. So instead of asking for something like, what's that? Which allowed Teotihuacan to have, they're gonna say something like, which of the following didn't allow Teotihuacan to have, or is not mentioned as something that allowed Teotihuacan to have. Okay, so it's exactly the same, but the opposite. And I would say it's easier because this works like a list of things. So you will see that you have a list in your paragraph, you have a list in your options. Everything you need to do is just check one by one the ones that you have. And obviously the one that's left, the one that you don't have, it's gonna be your answer. So you will see what I mean. It's like a recipe, okay? Eggs, I have eggs, water, I don't know, or milk, and then you go checking one by one, okay? It's quite easy, I would say. They ask for information that's not mentioned in a paragraph. I think that it's important that you read the question carefully, because sometimes you get it wrong just because you haven't read it in the right way. You know, you're like, okay, what gave instead of what didn't give. So careful there. It's not that frequent, so you can have one or two, and you need to eliminate options in order to get the right one. Okay. So the good thing is that we have the same paragraph, but a different question. So will anybody please read this one now?
The question, right?
Yes, please.
Which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan? The presence of obsidian in the Teotihuacan Valley, the potential for extensive irrigation of Teotihuacan Valley lands. C, a long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley. D, Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route.
Okay, thanks so much. So since we have read this already, I'll give you like 1 or 2 minutes again. So think about what the answer could be.
Excuse me, I think it's letter C.
Okay, letter C.
What does mean obsidian?
Obsidian is like a mineral. It's a type of mineral.
Okay.
Letter C,
So you,
I'm sure.
okay, that's great. You guys agree then? All right.
Yes.
So now what you need to do here, I think, yes, you guys are right. C is the correct answer. And what you need to do, I would say the main thing first is look at the keywords. Again, you will find your keywords. In this case, we're looking for main factors in the development of Teotihuacan. Here it is, right? Among the main factors of the development of Teotihuacan are, and we have a list, as you can see, geographic location, natural trade route, obsidian resources, and potential for extensive irrigation. So here's the obsidian, here's the potential for extensive irrigation, and here's the natural trade route, right? So it can be D, it can be B, it can be A. As a result is C. So that's it. Now, some people might get, tricked and try to say something like, okay, but I think they mentioned something about volcanic eruption. So I think it could also be C, or it could be another one because this one is also mentioned. So careful, because the other factors, we have something completely different here. We have the exact role of other factors is much more difficult to pinpoint, like religious significance, historical situation, ingenuity and foresightness of the elite, the impact of natural disasters such as the volcanic eruption. So we don't care about any of these because those are not the main factors. Those are the other factors. They're not the main ones, okay? So just go for your keywords, make sure that you read it carefully so that you know this. And yeah, as you can see, you just need to check them and you will get to the right one. Guys, so I will say this one is one of the easiest ones. So any questions about this one? Okay, so then we have inference question, purpose questions, but those are actually going to take us more time. So we're going to leave those for next class. And let's do one more. I would say that this is the easiest one, you'll see. So the reference questions. these ones here are gonna ask you about basically what does a word refer to. So, and this word is gonna be a pronoun. So everything you need to know is basically what nouns are and what pronouns are. So can anybody tell me what a noun is? Do you guys know?
A person, place, thing, or
Okay. So yes, you're right. It's basically, it could be a person, a place, a thing. It's basically the name of something, right? It could be the name of anything you can think of. It could be the name of a group of people, the name of an object. Even the word person is a noun. So basically the name of something, something that is assigned to name something. And then a pronoun, you guys know what a pronoun is?
word that replaces a noun.
Okay, perfect. Yes, you're right. So it's a word that replaces the noun. Exactly. So in a sentence, you can have something like, I don't know, maybe Valencia is such a beautiful city. Okay. And then in order not to repeat the same Valencia, you're going to use a pronoun and you can say it is located or it has this amount of dense population, whatever, or population density or what have you. So basically what they're asking for is they're going to say, so what does the word it refer to? And you got to say Valencia. Now, of course, they're going to try to make it look like it's harder, but it won't be, I guarantee. So they may add something longer here, like Valencia, a city that's located here, here, and there. Or they may use an indefinite pronoun like this or that. So they may try to make it look harder, but it won't be. So let's look at an example. You'll see what I mean. So this is not so frequent. You may have one, or sometimes you have none of these in a question, in a set of questions. In this one here that we were doing, I didn't find a reference question. Okay, so we're gonna use another text, but it's the same. So we'll just read the question. Can anybody read the question? Sure.
Yes. The word those in paragraph 2 refers to A. Gene pool, B. Survival, C. Natural selection, and D. Traits and characteristics.
Okay, thanks so much. So now all you need to do is read the sentence where that word is. In this case, this one here. So I will read it for you. It is over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene, while those that harm survival will be selected against. So what do you think now? What does those refer to? Any ideas?
Traits
I think letter D.
Should you agree?
Traits and characteristics.
Okay. All right, so great, that's correct. Traits and characteristics.
Those is plural.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you're completely right. Those is plural, so it should have been traits and characteristics. Okay, nice. But even if it weren't plural, you just need to think of what the subject is, you know, what we are talking about in that sentence. So traits and characteristics that promote survival are kept, and traits and characteristics that harm survival are selected against, because that's the subject, that's the thing that we're talking about. Of course, it may have like a complement, it may have like like an adjective here, but that's what we're actually talking about. You know, the characteristics and traits that are beneficial are kept, and that those that harm are selected against. So, and it's also plural. Nice. Okay, guys. So as I was saying, I think that the easiest, quickest one, sorry for my voice. So I don't know if you have any questions about what we've done today or any comments for that matter. Okay, so I'll see you all on Thursday, and I'll throw the daily survey I just wanted. So please fill that out before you go, and have a nice night, you all.
See you, Andrea. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
teacher. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Bye.